Land is the basic resource. It is used by human beings for settlement, agriculture, transport, and for other activities. Even most of the clothing requirements of man comes from land. About 95% of human food requirements are met from land. Traditionally, Adivasis in India or tribals in other parts of the world consider land a community resource. In Africa, even today, many communities use pasture lands as a common resource for grazing their domesticated animals. They even collect fodder, fruit, and medicinal herbs for community use. Community lands are considered as a common property resource. In this chapter, we will study the following concepts: land resources, soil resources, water resources. Land resource. Land is the basic resource. It is used by human beings for settlement, agriculture, transport, and for other activities. Land resource. Most of the clothing requirements of man comes from land. About 95% of human food requirements are met from land. Land constitutes only about 30% of the total area of the earth. The entire human population of more than 6 billion people live today on land. Of this total population, 90% people live on 30% of the land area. The remaining 10% also live on land, but in inhospitable parts like deserts, mountains, grasslands, and in extremely cold areas. These areas are sparsely populated. Land use. The use to which land is put both by man and nature is together described as land use. The proportion of land put to particular use and its distribution over an area or the world is known as land use pattern. For example, land use cannot be explained simply by the economic use of the land like agriculture, housing, and roads. Major land use patterns of the world are forests, arable land, pasture land or grasslands, savanna, mining, fishing, and industrial centers. Factors influencing land use patterns: population growth, physical factors, crop combination, occurrence of mineral deposits, technology. Land use in selected countries of the world. According to Table 1, many important inferences can be drawn. For example, India has a very high percentage of arable land, 57%. Australia and UK have more land under pasture. A small country like Japan has 67% of its total land area under forests. Canada, which has a good percentage of its land area under forests, has put its land area to other uses. The above land use pattern also reveals probable economic activities of the people. For example, agriculture is the dominant occupation of the people in India. Two European countries, France and UK, have a sizable portion of arable land and agricultural occupations are still very important. Common property resources. On the basis of its use, land can be divided into private lands, community lands, and cooperative ownership. Common property resources. Traditionally, Adivasis in India or tribals in other parts of the world consider land a community resource. In Africa, even today, many communities use pasture lands as a common resource for grazing their domesticated animals. They even collect fodder, fruit, medicinal herbs for community use. World pattern of land use. The world pattern of land use is given on the map below. It will be observed that both climate and relief factors determine land use patterns. In major parts of the world, nomadic herding and primitive agriculture are still practiced, whereas in developed parts of the world, commercial agriculture is practiced. Land use planning. The conservation of land resources takes into account the needs of the community as well as that of the environment, including technological developments. Therefore, there is need for planning of land use on a national scale.